Great. Well, hi everyone and welcome again. I'm Annalena here with the Wallace Center, joined with Andrew Carberry, who's leading this mentorship program. We're very excited to see you all today and so many new names, just so great. So welcome to the Food Systems Leadership Network. We have about 30 minutes for the call today. Might go a little bit longer, might go a little bit shorter. Just want to make sure that you all have enough time to get familiar with the program and have any of your questions answered. Feel free to use the raise your hand option or use the chat box to ask any questions. We'll do a little overview of the program and then have some space for some open Q&A. And yeah, so with that, I think I will hand us over to Andrew to get us kicked off.
All right, thanks, Annalena, and welcome everybody. Glad to see your interest today and to see some of what mentorship means to you. I see collaboration, tradition, wisdom, guidance, solidarity, and it's so neat to see through this what everyone brings their own traditions and their own story to it to make the best they can out of it, and that's especially true of the mentors themselves. So I wanted to go over. Let's see, there we go. Just a little framing about the program before we get into it, and it's really connected to the Food Systems Leadership Network, which Annalena and I both work to support. It's a national peer learning community that connects current and emerging leaders, strengthens individual and collective capacity, and fosters collaboration across communities. And our vision for the network is really one of mutual support for all of these folks, all of you all connected and supporting one another. And the ultimate goal of the network is to accelerate the realization of a just, equitable, and sustainable food system, generating good food and health and opportunity for all. And one of the key ways that we've seen that we can support and grow towards this vision is the mentorship program. It really helps to build relationships, deep relationships, one-on-one, as well as within the cohort, between mentees and across the movement. Over time, you'll see down there we've had 150 mentees, and a lot of people remain connected to their mentor, and they're always growing the web of connections as their relationship deepens. We also create a space for seasoned leaders to share their wisdom and expertise with others. It's a lot of times, they're some of the busiest people and they don't have space carved out to share or to connect with someone who's maybe less experienced. So this is a way they can really be intentional and learn how to share that and pass it on. And it's also just about strengthening the capacity of food systems leaders that are out there and supporting them on their journeys and finding the best way to use your time and your talents for the movement. So this started in 2018, and we've had 5 cohorts with 150 mentees total. And it's amazing the results every year, what people say about it. But everyone says they feel more confident in their leadership capacity. And most people plan to make changes to their practice. They find something that they can change. And there's also a lot of stories that we hear about connections and career changes and lots of things that can happen as a result of just a little boost for mentorship. And this is what mentees have said about it in their own words. You'll see this is based on, everyone gives like 3 words at the end of the program. What did it mean to you? How would you describe it? And so the biggest ones are, more represented: supportive, productive, helpful, concrete. You can see the rest there, but that's the kind of the spirit of it. It really captures it in mentees' own words. And these are the mentors. There's 3 new mentors this year. Some folks have been with us for all 5 years, all 6 cohorts. And so there's really a blend of experience. And I know the new folks are bringing their own ways of mentoring. I'm excited for them to be a part of the cohort. But this is especially a good time to connect with someone, with one of these folks for support. As the pandemic continues, having a thought partner like this and a mentor to help guide your decisions and try to figure out the path as things keep changing and being unpredictable. And these mentors can really serve and offer their guidance, their support, and just reflect. A lot of times, what's most powerful is they ask really good questions. So these folks they'll get to know you and learn your story, and then they'll ask the right questions that guide you towards your own path. And I think with that, I'll hand it back to Annalena.
Great. So just to talk a little bit about the logistics of this program, it is a 4-month commitment. So we will kick off the mentorship program in early March and end and go through the end of June. We'll have a more detailed timeline at the end. And over the course of those 4 months, you have 8 hours of dedicated time to work with your mentor. Generally, that takes the form of phone calls, but between the two of you guys, we'll be able to work out what mode of communication works best. Um, and 8 hours might not seem like, a total amount, like a huge amount of time at first glance, but it definitely, it seems to work. We've gotten feedback over the cohorts that this is a good amount of time, just about, 2 hours a month for some monthly calls. And we would encourage you to make time in between sessions and in between calls with your mentor to do some prep, some follow-up, and really prepare for the next time that y'all are meeting so that you can keep working towards your goals. What we found helpful in the past that mentees have actually created guidance documents to help them through planning out their time. So we'll be able to share some of those resources with selected mentees to really help narrow down what you want to work on. So get your thoughts in one place and really be able to make an intentional use of your time together. This year, we're really excited to bring in a new twist on this and just have some more dedicated space for those mentee connections. Previous cohorts have, asked for more space to connect with their mentees, to connect with other mentees in the cohort, get to know other people, what's going on, what's happening. So we'll definitely have space in, kickoff, midway, and debrief calls for some of that connection and create opportunities within that to just, tap into this amazing network of people. One big value of being part of a national network is that there are others who are working on similar challenges, and what better way to tap into that to tap into your own creativity and those of others through this network. So we'll be making some touch points for that as well, in addition to the time that you'll spend with your mentors. All right, I think that's good there.
Okay, let's see if I can get this to move. There we go. Okay, so one unique thing about this versus other offerings of the Food Systems Leadership Network is that it's not really technical assistance, that it's a different type of support. And so wanted to try to describe that a little bit so you understand what this is and how you can best take advantage of it. That it's really initially based on a relationship. The first call, the first time you meet your mentor, it'll be all about getting to know each other. And they're really just there to support you. So that's the foundation of it, is getting to know one another. And mentors really serve as a sounding board. So they're not, they're asking you questions and reflecting, but it's not a lot of them downloading information to you. I know that was in one of the words people used, but that might come later. It's not showing up with a bunch of questions on day one and just trying to download their knowledge. And it's so that could be part of it, but it's not the main purpose. And in the best case, the mentors, when they're working with folks, the answers reside within you. They're just a guide to get there. And the mentors are also learning. A lot of times they appreciate questions from mentees and can there's some co-learning that goes on when mentors bring their own questions or mentees bring questions to the mentors. And so I wanted to share a couple of examples, and then we'll hear from a past mentee who I see is here. So these are some kind of the themes of what mentees have worked on. And so with organizational leadership, sometimes it's about leading staff or working with staff and accountability, or how the organization works with the community and transferring power. And these can come, sometimes organizational leadership comes from the executive director, and that's lots of those has participated. But it can also be program staff, people that are more connected to the work on the ground and seeing that and trying to communicate that to the leadership and make change within an organization. There's also a lot of personal change that goes on especially around prioritizing how you direct your energy. I think that's a part of everyone's journey in this. And we have some tools around that Annalena will show later about how we can help you do that. Also addressing self-doubts that you have, like as you're growing and you're coming into new positions and new experience, there's a time to shed some of that doubt. And racial equity is a key part of all of our work. And we're really excited to support that and see it be a key part of this program coming from the mentors that are there, but especially helping people of color navigate white spaces, either in their organization or just in the food movement, how to work through that. And so that's been a key thing that we've seen, and also creating culturally relevant, responsive places in agriculture. There's so much work to do there, and all the mentors have experience and wisdom around that. So now I wanted to open up to Tracy Lerman, who's previously the director of NISOG, to share some about your experience.
Thank you. So as Andrew said, up until the end of last month, I was the executive director of NISOG, and I transitioned out at the end of last month. And so I really wanted to do this program because I wanted to make sure that my exit from NISOG was done well and was supportive to the organization, which I still really care a lot about. And I signed up for, and I knew exactly who I wanted to work with, because she is one of the mentors, the one who I wound up working with, is someone whose work I had admired for a long time and admired her as a person for a long time. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not. Is it okay for me to share who my mentor was?
That's fine. Yeah, you can share, whatever you'd like.
I mean, I think a lot, like every other mentor that I saw seemed really strong and like they'd be a great person to work with. I worked with Niaz Dori. And she's been a leader in the food system space for a long time, and I've been ED of my organization for 5 years, and I really wanted to just get her support in specifically around how to navigate my organization's transition, but also generally about leadership and how you come into your own as a leader and how she did. And she's just an amazing person and really was so helpful for me in navigating a lot of these issues. And one of the things that when I did my the first sort of like orientation to the program, there was like, it's really on the mentee to structure the mentorship relationship with your mentor. The mentor kind of comes to you to help you, but you're the one who has to figure out what you want to get out of it and make the time worthwhile for you. And I knew that I was not going to have like a ton of time to like really structure something super detailed with a lot of goals that I wanted to meet. So I purposefully structured my mentorship with Niaz to really like what was coming up for me. I spent some time thinking about the things that were really kind of stressing me out as an ED. So it's like staff management, fundraising, and just like how to be a leader. And so we just really focused our conversations around those topics. And I came to it like with an openness to hear her, like very gentle, but like, definitely sometimes constructive feedback. She was really good at like not, and I think this is a good thing to hear, like, I went because I wanted to get feedback from someone who has been where I've been. And sometimes it was like, oh, that's like, can be a little hard to hear, but I'm really glad to get that feedback from you because I want to grow from this. So yeah, I mean, I think knowing what you want out of the mentorship and sort of like carving out like a few topics that you want to work on with that person is really helpful. And like, don't set up a structure for yourself that's going to be too difficult for you to actually carry out, because you're probably all super busy people and you don't want to make your mentorship another giant project that you now have to take on in addition to everything else. What else can I say about it? Yeah, I think yeah, and researching the mentor. There were two mentors that I had admired their work before, but I just thought Niaz, you know, for a number of reasons that I've already shared, would be a really good match for me. And personality wise, I also knew that we'd be a good match because I knew her from before and we always had a good working relationship. I don't know what else to say. I mean, do people have questions, or Annalena, Andrew, do you have things that you think would be helpful for me to share about my experience?
No, I think that was great. If there's questions, now we've got time, or we have a little bit more information we'll share. Tracy, if you can stick around, we can do questions then. Yeah, that was helpful. And it's, yeah, sometimes people do the mentor that they work with, and sometimes, you know, but yeah, Tracy, I appreciate you coming on to share.
Yeah,
Right,
and I think that your point around, you know, it is the mentee's responsibility to sort of like set the tone and the stage for the 4 months working together. So thank you for, you know, nailing that point in a little bit more. And so just quickly talking about the application, then we can go for some more Q&A. But definitely encourage you all to Tracy's point, you know, take a look at the mentor profiles that are up on the Food Systems Leadership Network's website. Most of the mentors have, you know, shared a little bit about their background and about who they're seeking to mentor. And do your outside research as well if there's someone who really has a skill set that you're seeking support with. You'll be able to select your first and second choice mentor. It's not always guaranteed that you'll be matched with them, but we do try our best to have that selection process work out to benefit both the mentee and the mentor. We'll do a first pass screening of the applications and then send them on to mentors who will ultimately do more of the matching themselves. So it's like a self-selection process. Kind of going backwards up here, up this list of bullet points, but we also do ask just logistically that y'all fill out an organizational capacity assessment matrix. And this is a questionnaire that really helps mentors understand the organization that you're working with, just to help them get a sense of, you know, the environment and context that you're operating in. Yeah, you know, when you are filling out the application, it's really be honest where you're at. You know, this is a time to really lean into where you want to grow, and it helps to, you know, to take the time to think about that and what are those focus areas or challenges or opportunities that you want to dig in a little bit more with. So using that as that application to explore that question will then set you up for a mentorship that is a little bit more smooth and focused. And then lastly, just around like who should apply and a little bit around eligibility. You know, if you are working to advance more equitable food systems, then like please apply. This is, you know, an opportunity for you. We definitely prioritize applications from people who identify as BIPOC. And who work in and for historically underserved communities. The majority of applicants historically have been associated with community-based organizations and nonprofits, but there have definitely been folks who work at universities or food policy councils, local government, extension programs, and mission-driven food businesses. You know, at the end of the day, really, this is about you and your leadership journey. The organization or entity that you're associated with is really just the vehicle that you're in, and it's just helpful to see to gauge your interest. But at the end of the day, this is about you and your leadership journey and your work in the food system space. I think the next slide talks a little bit about the timeline. Applications are open now, and they will stay open for 3 weeks until January 28th. And then in February, we'll be doing the matching. So we'll let you all know around mid to end of February about the selections. And then we'll have our kickoff call on March 8th, where you'll get to know other mentees and your mentor. And then the program will continue throughout the spring and we'll wrap up at the end of June. And that, I think, is all we have now for you guys. So I see some questions coming in through the chat right now, and we'll should we start getting to those, Andrew? Do some Q&A?
Yeah, there was one about the application. I'll just put the link to the page that's got all the program information, including the application and the OCAM that Annalena mentioned, is all there.
Great. And see a good question that just came in from Ash Richards around, is it appropriate to pitch to our mentors new directions for our organizations, programs, workshops, etc.? Do you, maybe a clarifying question is that like to, you know, use your mentor as a sounding board for an idea you have, or to like see if they'll, you know, help fund what you're trying to do? Okay, the first one,
yeah, I'll just come
previous-
off mute.
Cool,
I'll
thanks.
just come off mute, which is no, not at all, not for funding or anything. It just really, like, for example, where I work, I'm essentially stripping down the entirety of the program and redesigning it to actually match the work that we actually are doing in our local communities. And so just having a sounding board, because I don't really have a lot of colleagues to support me in that particular phase of what I'm doing, is it appropriate if we workshop language or program directions and so forth with our mentors?
Yeah, Andrew, do you want to take that? I'd say that sounds like a really, you know, reasonable challenge to work through with them.
Yeah, I think, Ash, I think that makes total sense and is a great example of something to work through in terms of program design. You know, and especially community engagement and being responsive is something that, you know, is right on for something you could do, if that answers it. I see some others about like who can apply. If you have a fiscal sponsorship, you can apply. That's part of the application, is just sharing that, you know, you can be a business, you can be a nonprofit, you can be sponsored. It's all, any of those are fine. And then Lana, about being on a path or starting a business, I think I just say go ahead and apply, and then you know, it's really case by case. So we would look at it, and if we pass it to mentors to see if it fits or not. But it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say a blanket statement.
Yeah, and just real quickly on that too, I think that sort of gets at what Andrew was referencing before around like mentorship and technical assistance. And there is definitely overlap. Of course, we all want to, you know, have those technical questions, you know, answered, but just being mindful in the application and then in the mentorship itself, that it really is less around those technical expertise questions and more around that growth and development stage. So I'm just putting a little finer point on that. Mary, for your question, you know, is there a level that we need to be at in order to qualify as a mentee? No. You know, there are folks who are quite new to this work and those who have years of experience. It is about your journey. It is helpful, I think, to have several, you know, like a year or two of, you know, understanding the food system and the context in your community that you're trying to work in. But there's no year experience requirement.
Let's see. Also, the question about if you know them, you can contact them. I don't know if there's harm in that, but we try to connect people with new mentees as well as people they know, so that doesn't influence it a lot, but you can let them know that you applied. Other examples. Tracy, I'm curious if there's anything else you would share, any other topics or that you worked on. Because actually what Annalena and I gleaned is pretty general, because it's a lot of it's confidential and stays in the pair. But Tracy, if there's anything else you'd want to share about what you've worked on.
I mean, my sense is that like what is off limits is really about the mentor's personal boundaries. And so, you know, as long as it's within the realm of like your work, because they're like a professional mentor. But like I know, like I got you know, I think I can only speak for being an ED because that's the job I've had for the last 5 years. But like being an ED really does like involve a lot of emotional and psychological labor. And like we got into that, like my mentor and I really got into just sort of like that emotional work that you have to do as an ED, and like kind of like the internal work that you have to do. And I can imagine like, you know, there are other examples of getting into that sort of like emotional labor that you might, I think it would be totally appropriate to work to discuss with your ED. I also had some, you know, staff management has always been, and I see a question coming up about the confidentiality. So I talked a lot about specific staff management challenges that I was running into that would be totally, you know, that my mentor had to be totally confidential about. And she gave me some great advice about how to work through that stuff. And because I knew that like it was safe to discuss those things with her, I felt like I could be really open and frank. So I think like the kinds of things that you talk about with your mentor, like you really set the boundaries with that. And I know that all of the mentors have experience, like significant experience doing this work. And so probably and our leaders themselves. And if there's one thing I know, like as a leader, you have to know how to set boundaries. That's probably like rule number one of being a leader. And so I think that like if you broach a topic with a mentor and it is something that they don't really feel like comfortable mentoring you on, or it's like something that they don't have the skill set to do, like I would expect them to be able to like state that boundary with you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you're not going to talk about like marital problems with your mentor, like that's really inappropriate. But like, I do think like we're doing like movement work, and movement work takes a lot of emotional labor. And like, there are places where like it can feel like there's not a really clear, stark boundary between like, is this professional or is this personal? Because like a lot of the reason why we go into this work is very personal.
Yeah, and on that point, like self-care comes up a lot. Like we hear that mentors and mentees have worked on how to take care of themselves in their unique context in their organization. And Malik Yakini, he's put it really well that it's like if you're not able to self care, then you can't. Sometimes that's stressed. And the mentor in their profile like have deep experience in, and it spans a lot of the food systems work. And so you can see there's someone working in a similar arena. That's always helpful because they'll know more of your reality and understand more of that. There's not a confidentiality agreement there that the mentors sign, so that's just kind of something they each, I think, speak through on your first call of what's confidential, and it goes both ways because they may share things they don't want shared outside. From the question on the organizational involvement, it's really allowing the time to connect with your mentor, so time for those calls, and then also being able to act on what they share. And a lot of times that is you're doing your job, so it shouldn't be too additional. There might be some things or some reflection exercises or other things that are additional, but yeah, they just need to make sure you have the time to do it and make space to do it. Annalena, any other questions we missed here? Anybody else want to throw in?
Mentors are paid for their time. Yes. That question just came through. Yeah, any other?
Teams, we do. There's sometimes it does make sense for a team. Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah, you're a little choppy right now. I don't know if you are there. All right, well, I think he was just going to talk about the teams again. And yes, we have had folks apply as a team and work together with a mentor. And yeah, again, you'll be able to use the application to sort of expand on why it's important and beneficial as a team to apply, and what you're both hoping to get out of the mentorship. We'll be modifying the FAQ as well with some of these questions that you all have answered. So we'll definitely be able to share that to follow up on as well. And thank you for these great questions. Hopefully this has offered a little bit more clarity into the program. Before we wrap up, are there any other last questions that anyone would like to bring up? All right, well, our email inboxes are always open and our phone lines are here. If you guys have any other questions, please do get your applications in by January 28th. And Tracy, thank you again so much for joining and for sharing what you worked on with your experience as, you know, a transitioning ED. Really appreciate you sharing today. And everyone else, thank you for sharing space and your time with us. We will be in touch with some follow-up information and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much.